Hey guys, Brent here, and today we're going to look at shutter speed. What does shutter speed do in photography? So let's have a look at the examples from my Essential Skills videos on where I was explaining how shutter speed affects the sharpness of the image when you are photographing movement. So here's an image of my son Wesley. I'm photographing this at 1/500th of a second, so it's a pretty fast shutter speed, reasonably fast, and you notice Wesley is frozen as he's jumping off the edge of this little wall out in the bush close to where I live. So that's a fast shutter speed, 1/500th of a second. Let's go to the next one. He has a reasonably slow shutter speed, it's 1/60th of a second, and what I'm doing is I'm panning, so I'm actually following him with the lens. So he is still reasonably sharp. There's parts of his body that are blurred because he's jumping, but the background's blurred, so it's showing me movement. So that's how you can use shutter speed to show movement in a moving object while still keeping the subject reasonably sharp. So that's 1/60th of a second, and then we'll even slow the shutter speed down even more, 1/30th of a second over here. Here is where I did not pan on Wesley, so I kept the background sharp, so he's actually running into the lens. I've focused on the rock over here, and I've had Wesley just kind of run and jump. So you'll notice now that 1/30th of a second he's blurred, the background's reasonably sharp because I was not panning, so it's a slower shutter speed. I've even gone to a even slower shutter speed, even half the speed of 1/30th, it's 1/15th of a second. And here's where I panned Wesley again, so the background's nicely blurred and he's also blurred, so it's kind of a more of an abstract artistic shot. So you'll notice that 1/15th of a second he's really blurred, and then 1/8th of a second is even slower. You can see as he's jumping, as he kicks his legs, there's a bit of movement, so that's quite cool to show movement. We'll go back again, so that's 1/8 is a really slow shutter speed, 1/15 is going a little bit faster, 1/30th is going even faster, 1/60th is a faster shutter speed. Here I've got him reasonably sharp, and 1/500th is a really fast shutter speed, and everything's in focus. This looks like he's frozen in time. So let's have a look at a couple of websites and a few other images from other photographers where I can explain shutter speed too. So here's a great image of a model dancing. Obviously there's a lot of movement happening here, and you'll notice at 1/1600th of a second, 1/1600th of a second, so that's a really fast shutter speed. And the reason he's using a very fast shutter speed here is to capture the movement of this dress, and she's dancing, flinging her hair around. That's a really fast shutter speed, everything is in focus. So I'm going to go from fast to slow here. I'm going to go from examples of faster shutter speeds, and I'm going to go all the way to examples of slower shutter speeds. So that's a fast shutter speed. Let's have a look at the next one, another fast shutter speed. If we look at the shutter speed, it's 1/1000th of a second here, and the reason he's getting 1/1000th of a second is because he's inside the wave, photographing a surfer. There's action, he needs to capture this moment really fast shutter speed, capturing a moment frozen in time. That's really good. So now we're going to start going a little bit slower. So if I look at this image of this wave coming with the wind blowing offshore, just a beautiful image, and the sun kind of setting and reflecting off this wave. I have a look down here, it's 1/10th of a second. So now we're going a little bit slower, and the reason he's going slow is he wants to show some movement in this wave. Just a beautiful capture. You can see the movement of the water coming up like that, and the spray coming off. So he's using a shutter priority here to make sure that we're actually getting movement in this image. Great example of how you can use shutter speed to make an image a lot more interesting. Okay, so here's an even slower shutter speed. This is 6 seconds, so the shutter is open and exposing the sensor for 6 seconds. And the reason that this guy, Aaron, photographed this with 6 seconds is he wants to show the spray and show the milky waterfall effect over here. And you can even see, even with this river running down there, we've got movement, so you can see which way the river's going, the waterfalls. Just a beautiful capture of a landscape image, a very slow shutter speed, 6 seconds. Here we're going even slower. If I look at this image, it is 180 seconds. So he's exposing this image for 180 seconds, and the reason he's doing this is obviously it's a sunrise or a sunset. I'm not quite sure, maybe a sunrise, and there's waves coming in and out of this image. So you want to show this water to be milky, more of an artistic feel image. So 180 seconds, that is 3-minute exposure, and it looks really great. It's great for creating artistic landscape images. Also, the clouds are moving, so as the sun rises and the clouds are moving, you get this flowy, milky, cloudy effect too. So I do a lot of these, they call long exposure landscape images, and the reason you do that is you want to get the cloud movement, you want to get the water movement, and it's a great artistic shot. So that's a very, very slow shutter speed, 180 seconds, 3 minutes open. And here's the last one. This is even longer, it's 252 seconds, even a longer exposure, a long shutter speed, very long shutter speed, and here is getting wave movement, the water's milky, the clouds are blurred because they're moving around, and you've got a couple of still images. So with these last few, you definitely need a tripod. There's no way you can hold the camera for that long. And you also need a cable release, so you're not even touching the camera when you actually take the photograph. You are separated from the camera, so you create no movement on the camera, so that these rocks can be sharp, and everything else that's moving in the scene is blurred. So that's where you need a very sturdy tripod, especially if there's wind and other elements around you there. So there's another one. So we go back to faster shutter speed. So that's 180 seconds. Definitely need a tripod. Definitely need a tripod on this one. 6 seconds. This one, 1/10 of a second. Maybe not. Maybe doesn't need a tripod. Maybe does. If he wants to keep something sharp in the background, he might need a tripod. Otherwise, he's panning on this wave. Here, you don't need a tripod. 1,000th of a second. There you don't need one 1/1600th of a second. So hope that explains shutter speed a lot better to you. As you change the shutter speed, you definitely can create movement in the image, blurring, and it makes your images that much better to look at. Anyway, this is Brent, and have a great day.